Tangled in Tuscany. Chapter 8. The First Real Smile. The town of San Casciano dei Bagni glowed like a jewel under the midsummer sky. By early afternoon, the narrow cobblestone streets had filled with color. Striped banners fluttered above windows, laughter echoed between old stone buildings, and the air buzzed with accordion music, grilled meats, and the sweetness of sugared figs. Sophia had never seen anything quite like it. "It's like a Renaissance painting exploded into a street party," she said as they stepped into the main piazza. "Accurate," Luca replied dryly beside her, "with more wine and worse shoes." He wore a soft gray shirt and dark slacks that looked unusually well fitted for a man who preferred dust and boots. His sleeves were rolled, his collar open, and the sunlight caught just enough in his hair to make her forget, for a moment, how little she was supposed to notice those things. She, too, had dressed for the festival. A linen sundress the color of honey, comfortable sandals, and the camera slung over her shoulder. Her curls were half-pinned, half wild, and her cheeks still carried the flush from their walk up the hill. They had arrived together, but not alone. Alessia had insisted they all attend the Festa del Raccolto, a centuries-old harvest celebration in the neighboring town, famous for its chaotic charm and stunning sunset processions. "I can't believe you don't like festivals," Sophia said, watching a trio of children race past carrying oversized breadsticks like swords. "I don't dislike them. I dislike being dragged into them. And yet, here you are. I'm not sure how that happened." "You agreed," she said with a teasing grin. "It's on record. I was bribed with espresso and threatened with public guilt. A classic Italian tactic." They passed a booth where a man with a handlebar mustache was selling hand-painted tiles. Another stall overflowed with fresh pasta in dozens of shapes, while a trio of elderly women offered samples of olive tapenade and marinated mushrooms with fierce grandmotherly pride. Sophia stopped every few feet to snap photos. Children dancing in a circle, an old man asleep in a chair beneath a tree, a teenage couple laughing behind a garland of garlic. "You're working," Luca observed. "I'm seeing. There's a difference." She turned to him, camera still in hand. "Work is when I frame something for others. Seeing is when I do it for me." He didn't respond, but she caught the way he looked at her then, not like she was fragile or complicated, but like she was known, or beginning to be. By late afternoon, the square swelled with more locals and visitors. Musicians struck up traditional songs near the well, and a long table was set beneath hanging lanterns, already half covered in shared platters of food. Sophia took a seat beside Chiara, who was already 2 glasses deep into a bold red wine and deep in conversation with a baker from Montepulciano. Across the table, Luca stood speaking to a few vineyard suppliers, polite but distant. Every so often, his eyes flicked to her. She wasn't sure if he even noticed, but she did. After a few moments, Alessia appeared behind her, placing a delicate flower crown on Sophia's head with the elegance of a queen bestowing favor. "There," she said. "Now you look properly dangerous." Sophia laughed. "I think I look like I wandered out of a fairy tale." "Even better. Just don't make Luca too nervous." "Why would I make Luca nervous?" Alessia leaned in conspiratorially. "Because he smiles around you. Don't tell him I told you. He'll deny it with his last breath." Sophia blinked. "He doesn't smile." "Exactly," Alessia said, raising her glass. "Until now." After the meal, as the lanterns were lit and soft music started again, people began drifting to the center of the square, where dancing had begun. Messy, uncoordinated, joyful. Sophia stayed at the edge, amused, taking photos with one hand and sipping from a wine glass with the other. A man tried to pull her into the circle, but she laughed and waved him off, shaking her head. "You're resisting joy," came Luca's voice behind her. She turned to find him watching her, hands in his pockets, mouth twitching like he was trying very hard not to smile. "I'm photographing it," she said. "That counts." He tilted his head. "You've been staring through your lens all night. When do you actually join the world you keep trying to capture?" Sophia arched an eyebrow. You're asking me to dance again? Luca shrugged, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Last time, you didn't step on my feet. That earns a second round. She laughed, lowering her camera. You hated it. I didn't, he said. I just wasn't used to it. Their eyes met. The square pulsed with laughter and stomping feet, lanterns swaying above them like lazy stars. Sophia hesitated, her fingers brushing the wine glass. Then she handed it off to a passing server and reached for his outstretched hand. No dares this time, she said. Desta yes. His smile deepened. Even better. And together, they stepped onto the cobblestones where the music was rising, an old waltz now, slow and lilting. Around them, couples swayed in loose time, some spinning elegantly, others laughing at their own missteps. Luca placed a hand gently on her waist, the other holding hers with a warmth that surprised her. They moved slowly, then found rhythm. The wind lifted her curls. His fingers curled subtly against her side. Neither of them spoke. She could feel his breath when he leaned closer to guide their next step. The warmth of him seeping through her dress like an invisible thread. See, she whispered, you do smile. He looked at her then, really looked, and the corners of his mouth lifted just slightly. Not a grin, not a smirk, a real smile, quiet, honest, unpracticed. It hit her harder than she expected. So much so, she missed her next step and nearly stumbled. He caught her before she could fall, one hand tightening instinctively. Careful, he murmured. I'm usually graceful. I've noticed. She laughed quiet, close. They were too near now, too aware. The music around them faded slightly, or maybe the square just fell away. For a beat too long, they didn't let go. Then the song ended, and the crowd clapped. Luca stepped back, hand dropping. Sophia exhaled. It had been nothing. It had been everything. The clapping faded. The next song began, faster, livelier, crowded with stamping feet and high-pitched violin. Luca stepped away as others surged into the center, drawing the rhythm like breath. Sophia lingered at the edge, flushed and breathless in the best way. The flower crown on her head had slipped slightly, and strands of hair stuck to her neck from the dance. She turned to say something, to thank him, maybe, or tease him, but Luca was gone. She spotted him moments later across the square, standing beside the well, head tilted slightly to the side as he watched the dancers. His face was unreadable again, but his hands were clenched behind his back, and his weight shifted from foot to foot like he wasn't sure what he was still doing there. Sophia approached slowly. You always disappear after you smile, she asked. Luca didn't look at her right away. I'm not used to that much attention. It wasn't about you. That's worse, he murmured. At least when they look at me. I know what they're thinking. I don't know what they see when they look at you. Sophia blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? He turned toward her then, and the sharpness of his gaze made her feel suddenly, utterly still. I mean, I watched 10 different people try to pull you into that dance before I had the courage to do it myself. The admission landed somewhere low in her chest, unexpected and soft. You don't strike me as someone who lacks courage, she said quietly. Luca looked away. I do when it comes to things that matter. The words hummed with something just beneath the surface. Something careful, and close to breaking. Sophia stepped beside him, her shoulder nearly brushing his. You didn't have to ask me to dance. You know, I wanted to. Why? He didn't answer. The silence stretched, heavy and thick. Then Luca said, because I knew I'd regret it if I didn't. The confession pulled the air from her lungs. She turned to face him, heart drumming in her ears. Luca, but before the words could form, before she could say I feel it too, or don't stop now, or I'm scared too, but maybe that's okay. A loud burst of laughter erupted behind them, breaking the spell. It was Chiara and Matteo half dancing, half falling into the side of the gelato cart. Someone else shouted a toast in dialect. Music picked up again. Luca stepped back. The moment passed, but the look in his eyes didn't. They didn't speak again until much later. When the festival had begun to thin and the lights grew dimmer and softer, their golden glow stretching like taffy across the cobblestones. The group slowly reconvened at the base of the hill where Alessia had parked the vineyard van. A few workers were tipsy, Matteo was singing off-key again, and Chiara was negotiating a handful of leftover cannoli with a baker. Sophia leaned against a lamppost, watching it all with a tired smile. Luca appeared beside her. "Ready to go?" he asked. "I'm fine here," she says, barely standing. She nudged his shoulder. "You danced with me. You're partially responsible for this fatigue." His expression softened. "Just a little. Come on. Trouble." She didn't resist when he offered his hand to steady her on the uneven steps. They climbed together slowly, the group chattering ahead of them. The path toward the van was quiet, dimly lit by string lights still swaying in the breeze. As they walked, Sophia said, "You're good at hiding." Luca arched a brow. "At hiding?" "Your thoughts, your heart, your past, yourself." He didn't argue. She looked over. "Are you ever going to let me see more of it?" A long pause. Then, "That depends on whether you're planning to stay long enough to look." Sophia's breath caught. "That sounds like a question with a weight attached." "It is. I don't know yet," she whispered. "I figured." She glanced sideways. "Does that scare you?" Luca looked ahead. "Yes." The honesty in his voice made her chest ache. It wasn't the kind of fear that came from weakness. It was the fear of someone who had already lost more than he'd ever admitted, and couldn't stand to lose more. Sophia reached for his hand. She didn't hold it, she just reached. Her fingers brushed his, light, like a dare. And for a breath, he let them stay there. No words, no promises, just presence. And the faintest, most fragile kind of beginning. They arrived back at the estate long after midnight. The van rumbled up the gravel drive, headlights catching the rows of vines in fleeting flashes. Laughter faded as the workers scattered to their quarters. Alessia waved goodnight with a wide yawn, and Matteo declared something about dreaming of tiramisu before disappearing into the dark. Sophia lingered beside the guesthouse steps, key in hand, body sore from dancing and soul heavier than she expected. Luca stood nearby, arms folded, watching the moonlight shimmer off the roof tiles. "You should rest," he said quietly. "You should stay," she said before she could stop herself. His gaze flicked to hers, sharp and unreadable. "I didn't mean," she started. "I know," he said. But he didn't move, neither did she. "I'm not good at soft things," Luca murmured. Sophia stepped forward. "Then don't be soft. Just be real." His breath caught, but he didn't reach for her, and she didn't move again. Finally, he nodded once. "Buonanotte, Sophia," and walked away into the dark. Inside, Sophia leaned against the door and exhaled. She'd nearly asked him to stay. He'd nearly said yes. They were inching toward a cliff with no idea whether there was water or rocks waiting below. But still, she wasn't ready to back away. Not yet.